Hi everyone, today we are going to dive into the concept of giftedness and I will walk you through key characteristics of gifted learners in economics, introduce some practical identification tools, and guide you through a step-by-step identification process you can use in your classes. Before discussing gifted students, we first need to clarify how giftedness is defined. According to the 2004 policy, gifted students are those whose potential in one or more fields is significantly higher than the same age peers. The concept comes from Ganet's DMGT, the differentiated model of giftedness and talent. Ganet developed this model to address the confusion between giftedness and talent in 1970s and 80s, when these two terms were often treated as the same. The core of DMGT is the distinction between these two concepts. On the left side of the model are aptitude, which are biological and naturally developed abilities we are born with. For example, some individuals demonstrate strong logical thinking or creativity. These abilities place individuals in the top 10% of their same-aged peers in at least one area. So on the right side is performance, which refers to professional competence developed through systematic practice and demonstrated in real-world contexts, typically placing individuals in the top 10% of their learning peers in at least one area of human activities. The modern DMGT 2.0 model, refined by Ganet over the past 40 years, goes beyond the distinction. As shown in the model, the middle section introduces catalysts and details in development process. These include internal factors such as motivation and personality, and external factors such as teachers, family, and social environment. The model also incorporates chance. So overall, giftedness can be seen as a raw material, raw potential, while talent is a result of development. This means that high potential does not automatically lead to high achievement. As research has shown, the discrepancy between expected and actual performance, underachievement, is quite common among gifted students. This means students may be gifted but not yet talented. This may be due to factors such as low motivation, lack of challenge, family or peer pressure, or physical limitations, leading to incomplete work or procrastination. For example, Tadaki 1996 found that students often become bored with repetitive and draw and practice tasks in mathematics, resulting in poor performance in routine computation and low homework output. However, these same students often excel in conceptual understanding, applications, and scientific reasoning. This also applies to economics. So many classroom tasks involve repetitive calculations. We need to apply formulas to calculate inflation rate. Students with strong analytical abilities may lose motivation in these tasks and be mistakenly seen as underperforming. Therefore, relying only on grades or classroom performance can easily overlook gifted students, especially with the constraints of school environments. In economics, this is particularly important because the subject requires both numeracy and literacy. According to Akara, students need to analyze data, interpret graphs, understanding relationships, and also critically examine resources and communicate ideas effectively. From a DMGT's perspective, this involves multiple domains. According to Ganet, it primarily draws on general intelligence ability, GI. Aqua and Hong 2004 found that mathematically gifted students can efficiently process information, form complex logical connections. However, economics also requires interpretation and prediction in real-world contexts, often without a single correct answer. This highlights the importance of creativity, GC, where students generate new ideas and perspectives. So the study of economics is essentially the study of real-world social issues. The book Gifted Students and Social Studies teaching points out that successful economists need to understand positions of different social roles and make judgment in debates and decision-making. This requires students to possess a high degree of social perceptiveness and interacting skills, enabling them to understand multiple perspectives and negotiate effectively, corresponding to GS. So overall, GI, GC, and GS are the key domains. In addition to this, non-intellectual personal traits are also important. According to the Nobel discussions, a good economist needs strong curiosity. Are you curious about how people make decisions, how markets function, and how entire systems and societies work, as well as open-mindedness, critical thinking, and an ethical responsibility? However, these characteristics are often hard to observe in traditional classrooms, which focus on homework, assignments, tests as measures of academic performance. And this can disadvantage students who are gifted but not yet demonstrating their full talent. Therefore, we need to use identification tools to better assess students' potential. To improve accuracy, we should combine objective, quantitative methods such as aptitude testing with subjective, qualitative approaches like pair nomination, as they do not identify exactly the same group of students. The first tool is aptitude testing, such as cognitive abilities test called AD. This is a standardized test designed to assess students' potential in specific cognitive domains, rather than their learned knowledge or academic performance. So in practice, we do not rely on the overall score as it averages different abilities and may mask a student's strengths. Instead, we focus on two subtests most relevant to economics: quantitative reasoning and verbal reasoning. Quantitative reasoning reflects students' ability to identify patterns, analyze relationships between variables, and make predictions, key skills in economics. Verbal reasoning assesses their ability to understand and express abstract concepts, explain ideas clearly, and develop arguments, which is essential for analysis and discussion. In terms of selection criteria, students who score in the top 10% are considered strong candidates. The strength of this tool is allows teachers to identify students with high potential but low academic performance. It is also very efficient, suitable for large-scale use, whether it's classroom or the grade level. However, COG-80 is highly structured and may not capture creativity or complex decision-making in real-world contexts. Also, research has found that COG-87 nonverbal scale scores are influenced by demographic factors, and different schemes can significantly alter the recognition rate of gifted students from disadvantaged groups. Therefore, it should not be used in isolation. The second tool is parent nomination. Parents observe their children in everyday contexts and can provide insights that are not visible in classroom. For example, some students may not stand out in class, but at home, conversations will naturally reveal their proactive attention to news and their opinions on price changes. I remember my mom said when I was little, when we went grocery shopping together, I often said the eggs at this supermarket were 10 cents more expensive than at another, and we should buy them at the other store. And in practice, nomination forms should include guiding questions such as, when shopping, do your kids proactively compare the costs and benefits of different options? And in discussions, are they able to persuade others with reasoned arguments? This helps teachers gain a clear understanding of students' abilities. A key advantage of parent nomination is that it is inclusive, especially for students who may not perform well in formal classroom settings. However, it also has limitations. For example, we all know that our own children are the best, or some parents tend to have the strictest expectations for their children. Therefore, parents may overestimate or underestimate their children's abilities. Therefore, it should be combined with other methods, including teacher, peers, self-nomination, as well as dynamic assessment. Finally, leading us to the step-by-step identification process. It may seem a bit complicated, but essentially, we begin with a broad nomination to build a pool of candidates. Then screening tools are used to narrow the group. Next, a professional team reviews multiple sources of data. Finally, based on results, students are placed in differentiated educational programs that match the development needs, so that ensures every student can thrive and get the most out of their learning experiences. Thank you for listening.